Yeah.
Management, property management. How do we make sure it's a decent company? The multi-million-dollar question. Who wants to answer that? No one wants to
No
touch.
one.
Well, I mean, I'll take a crack at it. I mean, I think that's one of the values that Real Wealth brings to the table is that we go out there and we check these people out, right? I mean, and I'm not going to go over the basics here, but we make sure that they've got years of experience, they've got X number of houses under management, they weren't a failed dentist and they're 6 months ago and they're trying their hand at property management. I mean, we do that basic due diligence, ask them some key questions, and then. But the biggest thing is just the feedback we get from our members. And believe me, if a property manager isn't on the ball, we hear about it really quickly. Like, gee, they used to be much more responsive than they are now, or whatever. I mean, legitimate concerns, and we'll jump in and help out and try to figure out, okay, what's going on here. So, I mean, I've had to fire several property managers in Phoenix. Just losers that were just rent collectors. I drive by my house.
We all have, yeah, and we fired him at RealWealth. I mean,
Yeah.
You almost have to see us like a Yelp where we can't control them. They're not our companies. We just find them, and we get you guys in particular, the investment counselors, get to hear, lucky you, if there's any problems. And if there's problems, Tim goes in, tries to get them to fix it. If they don't fix it, they're not on our list. They get off our list, and they don't want that because we have 800 new members every month. They would really like to stay in our good graces. So usually they will resolve the situation, but not always. It's been a long time since we had to fire a property manager, but it's always a possibility. So you got to stay on top of them, and you got to make sure we know about it. Because if you're not happy and we don't know about it, there's nothing we can do about it.
There's also personal preference. I mean, we talked to one client who they're over the moon in love with one property manager, and then you'll talk to the next and they don't care for him. So, I mean, there's a certain element of just figuring out what your preference is, and that's not always something you can rule out before entering that relationship, but it's not a permanent relationship either, right? I mean, you can take it elsewhere. At the end of the day, you own the property, so you can find somebody else if it doesn't meet your personal criteria.
And that's part of the reason why you want to be part of a network like this, because even if you only own one property, you still have a lot of clout with these providers. If they're not performing, you let us know, and they want to keep our members happy because we send them a lot of business. So, and when they're not happy, we're not happy with them, we cut them off. So that gives you some leverage as to how you can get the property management company to be more responsive.
Yep.
Amen.
So Ben, I'm going to hand it over to you because I have an interview with CoreLogic right now. I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm going to go do that.
Okay.
All right.
No
I think
problem.
I can get off without destroying everything. So see you guys later. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Kathy. See you later.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll still be live. Okay, good. I think we're still live. So yeah, I mean, let's see. So we've got a lot of comments on the Wall Street Journal article, Leah, that you sent over, just saying, we've already talked about, which I thought was fascinating. And let's see what other things here. This guy says, I'm planning to sell a property in Ohio in a big profit and to use the funds to buy more properties, but my CPA told me that I will have to pay tax. Any idea why? Okay, we're not going to touch that one because we're not CPAs, but that doesn't sound right to me. Something's rotten in Denmark with that one. You might want to take another look at another CPA perhaps. This one's pretty good. If you guys see a question because I think you get the questions too, right? So if you see anything you want to take, but I like this one. How are you guys handling the tenants who have stopped paying rent, especially those who may not have lost their jobs, but are just stopped paying anyway? And, what I thought is interesting, we've been doing these webinars at first 5 times a week and then now down to 3 times a week where we're talking to the various property managers and the various property teams. How are you going to react about this? And people were all across the board, especially at the beginning when it was a real unknown, but a lot of them are saying, well, we're not just going to come out offering blanket, forgiveness to everybody because most people won't need it. And the ones that do will come to us. But if we kind of offer it, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that just blatantly take advantage and like, yeah, I'll take that even though I don't need it. So I think that that combined with the fact that a lot of the property managers are seeing an increase or an uptick in how many people are applying to these homes. I don't really see, and nor I don't think any of our property managers have experienced a huge, downflow in rents. I think Detroit said that for the month of April, they had 92% collections and they're normally at 90. So it actually got better. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I guess the question to you guys too, you guys can answer, but I personally I have 7 properties right now, and I haven't heard anything as of yet where someone's bailed out of rent or not paid. So I don't know what you guys are experiencing in your personal properties.
Out of my 10, I had one that was related to COVID, a layoff, but she got a job 2 weeks later and we got on a payment plan, and I think we're fine for May. We'll move forward fine. So I was like you, kind of surprised. I mean, out of 10 that only one would have issues.
I've had no issues.
Yeah, no issues. I have 3 in Cincinnati, and one was a little late and short paid by like $150. And our Cincinnati Missy puts out a delinquency report, which is really nice. In addition to our normal thing, our normal property report, just a sheet of paper per property saying, is there any delinquencies on 123 Main Street or 456 Post? And I had one $150, $200, and they've since paid. So no issues.
Yep. And I did have one who was planned to move out, right during the middle of this, and they've extended and they're going month to month, so
right.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some of the teams were even proposing, Houston actually was one that was proposing in their plan to kind of get people current in the payment plan. They were offering that to tenants in exchange for an extended lease period. And so in my situation, it was kind of fortunate in that particular lease was set to expire right smack dab in the middle of the holidays, which is not desirable as an owner. And so I'm actually happy to work with a payment plan that would extend their lease, into spring of the following year. So it's kind of they looked for that win-win, which I really appreciated.
Look at this very last question. What are your thoughts on markets like the DMV, where there are plenty of government jobs? Do you know what DMV?
DC, Maryland, Virginia. It's the DC area.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're not in any of those markets, but I think that any market that has plenty of government jobs is going to be, relatively insulated.
The challenge with DC is it's so expensive. So you're gonna have to put a lot of money down to even create cash flow. And at that point, I think you need to be looking at, could I put that same amount of money elsewhere, like Huntsville, or like Jacksonville, which is also government, and earn a better return.
Going off of the non-paying renters, how hard do you think we should push the property managers when we have renters not paying? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, we've been doing webinars with the property managers, like Ben alluded to, on most of our property managers, updating everything. So they all have all of our property managers we work with. They have their own specifications, they have payment plans, they have all kinds of stuff in the works that they're offering to people who are not paying, but they have to have a reason. They can't just say, hey, I'm not going to pay rent anymore, too bad. Well, then even though you can't evict them technically because the courts are closed, they will get evicted and they will have a big mess. So if they got sick from COVID or they lost their job or something like that, then obviously that they're going to work around in payments. Like Leah, you're working with our Houston, you have a property with our Houston team, and maybe you can speak about what they're doing again, just like for like 30 seconds, like what their plan is with people.
They offered, I think it was just in April, I don't believe they did it in May, but they offered a incentive to try to get people to pay early. So I think they offered like a 5% discount on April rent if they moved in early or if they paid early. I think May was business as usual though, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head.
Yeah, and you can go back and watch all the, if you haven't watched the webinars, we have all the recent webinars on all the property managers like Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, all these guys are talking about what their plan is going to be if they start seeing a lot of lost rents or people not paying.
Yep.
I think it's a good idea to always I don't know that it's necessary to ride your managers about non-paying rent. I think that the teams that we work with far and large are very good at following up and very good at staying on top of non-paying renters and working with attorneys to start the eviction process if necessary. So I definitely wouldn't just let it fall by the wayside and just not ask for updates. You should definitely be informed, but I think most of the teams we work with are really good about staying on top of that.
Yeah, overall thing is you have to manage the manager. And even in the best of times, everyone tends to become complacent. And I just think when someone like, oh, I bought a property and 6 months later, I noticed I haven't gotten paid in 4 months. Well, hello. I mean, you know, and that doesn't happen very often. I have had people tell me things like that, but I will say that during this whole COVID thing, our PMs seem to, almost all of them, be really on top of it because they realize, okay, we have to come up with a plan. We have to be proactive. We can't offer blanket concessions to everybody for the reasons I already articulated, but we have to be sensitive and have a plan for what to do should these issues come up. So everyone's paying a lot more attention, and so far, you know, knock on wood, it hasn't proven to be the sky's falling scenario that a lot of people were predicting.
Well, I know, like in California, you know, there's these rent strikes and all these crazy things that are like people are trying to do. Like, let's everyone not pay rent. It's like, okay, that's not going to work because, I mean, it's going to come back to bite you. If you just decide not to pay, you're going to have to pay a whole bunch of money. You're going to get evicted. You're going to have a strike on your credit. It's like, why would you not do that? Because you just don't want to pay. It doesn't make sense. So people have to pay.
Yeah,
it's normal.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much hit all the questions here. If anybody sees anything else on there that maybe I conveniently missed, but
here's a good one about Florida. Florida was hit hard in 2008, 2010, but do we believe Florida is better fit to survive this time?
Well, it's not Florida. It was Miami, in the southeastern part of Florida. They built too many condos and houses there, but all real estate is local. I mean, we're not having any problem with Jacksonville or Tampa. I would be cautious about Orlando because they laid off all those people from Disneyland, SeaWorld, and Universal Studios. Mm-hmm. And normally about 60 million people visit Orlando every year for the tourism trade, and that's over 1 million a week. And now it's 0. So if this lasts a while, it might have some long-term ripple effect throughout the economy there. But we haven't seen it yet because people who work at Disneyland with Mickey Mouse hats on don't rent our $250,000 houses in Orlando. So we haven't seen any effect, but there might be a long-term effect there. But the other markets seem pretty stable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, as we touched upon earlier, I mean, the reason for 2008 and the reason for now are just completely different. So, you know, like I was in Phoenix for the last thing, and I had like one home way out on the outskirts that completely lost like 70% of its value. I mean, it was a train wreck. But then I had another home that was much closer to the downtown, and it only lost like 10%. I mean, still not good, but it was just a wide disparity based entirely on the geography and where that particular property was located. And it was all just because they were handing out loans to anybody with a pulse. So of course there's going to be a major foreclosure thing. And now it's just a whole different set of circumstances, and the chapters haven't been written yet. So who knows?
Yeah, and Orlando's got other industries. They got a lot of retirees and other industries there. Places that are hit really hard is Las Vegas, because there's no conventions, no hotels, no tours, nothing, and there's nothing else there. Orlando's in much better shape than Las Vegas is.
Right, absolutely. All right, well, I think we'll pretty much call it a wrap. Aristotle, Kumpis, Joe Torre, Leah, Collich, me, Ben Smith. Thanks, everybody. We're going to do another one. Tomorrow is Cincinnati. We're going to bring Cincinnati on, and Leah, you're going to be handling that one, right?
Right.
So we'll have the Cincinnati market talk about what they're seeing in their market, what's happening, what the latest and greatest is, what the rent collections have been, and what their overall outlook is. And we've also been on all these webinars showing recently closed properties, not recent like January, but recent like last week or the week before, so that you can see what people are buying and what it looks like and what the performances are in various markets. So that's going to happen tomorrow, and then next week I know we have Tampa, I believe on Tuesday, and I'm not going to guess what's happening the rest of the week. But all right, guys and girls, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we will do it again soon. And see you in 24 hours, Leah, for Cincinnati.
All right, bye, guys.
All right,
bye,
thanks,
everybody.
guys.
See you later.